Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the CD Sport Podcast with me, Kerry Davis. Joining us today, Mr. James Gwinnett. How are you, James?
I'm extremely well. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Appreciate you coming on and giving your time up.
No, I appreciate you inviting me. It's a great pleasure.
No, that's awesome. I was last week. I went back to watch you on SAS. Who Dares Wins.
Oh dear, how embarrassing.
No, I was actually going to introduce you as number 14.
Yeah, fine. Yeah,
But,
Rupert, I get Rupert a lot if you've got
Rupert,
to that stage of the show yet. I don't know. So later on in the series, I was in series 4, and I got a bit of a drilling in the interrogation room, grilling, I don't know what, by Billy. And then they sort of sent me out. They did the whole called guard and sent me out. And then they had a bit of a joke. He and Ant had a bit of a joke to themselves. Like, oh, he's a classic Rupert. There's a sort of, I mean, I like to take it as a compliment. I'm not sure it is. It's sort of, middle class officer material type person. But the point was that Billy gave me a sort of a bit of a hard time in the room, and then as soon as I left, he turned around to Ant and said, "Quite like that guy." I'll take it. So yeah, Rupert's another one that I get.
That's what I was going to say. When they give you the grilling, and like you said, as soon as you left, they're like, "He's a really good guy. I really like him."
My armband sat on my mantelpiece over there at the number 14. I won't get it, but yeah, the number 14's just over there.
That's brilliant. We'll talk a bit about that as we go, but I want to rewind the clock back a bit. Sure. 2013, big rugby player. Were you 6'5"?
Yeah, I'm 6'5". At the time, I was about 17 stone, so just over 100 kilos. I've lost a bit of weight now. Probably lost about 10 kilos because I'm more into the long distance running, which I'm sure we will come on to. But yeah, I was a big old boy, second row, number 8. Big old boy in more ways than one, size and also sort of character, big sort of alpha male, loved a drink. It was, that it was a sort of identity, I suppose, is the best way of describing it, that I'd carved out for myself as this big macho lad. Had to be one of the lads, had to be out being seen as drinking the most. And I mean, I know you're a rugby fan as well. There's a big drinking culture in the sport, especially at the sort of the less professional levels. I was playing at a decent level, semi-pro, National League level, but it was very much a case of you work hard for 80 minutes and then you work even harder for a couple of hours afterwards in the bar, chewing pints and trying to outman each other. And then so that was 2000. I'd played since I was a small lad. I think I was about 6 years old when I started up. But in 2013, I remember it vividly. February the 9th, 2013. I was playing and I flew into tackle. I'd done it thousands, if not tens of thousands of times before, but on this occasion, mistimed it. The guy changed direction at the last minute, and I just flew headfirst into his stomach area, and the impact cracked a vertebra in my neck. And long story short, I was told that I had a fairly sort of horrible recovery process of wearing this neck brace 24/7 for 3 months. And I came out of that, and I was all sort of the hope and expectation of being able to get back to it. And the consultant said, "Look, no, you're done. Sorry, mate. Your neck's too weak." As it was, I'd come very close to basically permanent damage, paralysis. My spinal cord was being, one of the discs in my spine was pressing up against my spinal cord. And so that was that sort of dream, this game that I'd loved for 20 years or so, cut short, and my place as part of this community and this sort of brotherhood that you get from the game, your band of brothers, friends, was just sort of stripped away from me, and I didn't take it well at all. I got very depressed. The drinking that had been sort of social and a bit of banter, for want of a better word, became habitual and more solitary. and I sort of lent on alcohol as a crutch, and over a sort of 3-year period, descended into this sort of spiral of alcoholism and depression. And yeah, it was a dark old time, unfortunately.
No, like I say, getting something like that taken away from you as well, like it was your life, isn't it? You know, playing rugby.
Yeah, I mean, I was never. I mean, I say reasonable levels, so to semi-pro, but it wasn't my life.
Yeah.
In that I had a full-time job and other things going on, but it was in a way my life. It was certainly my identity, and I took it very seriously. My whole week was geared up towards that Saturday afternoon, and I was eating the right things, and I was fitness training, weights, cardio, training with the lads, etc., all geared up to that release, for want of a better word. That sort of, you build up to the Saturday at 3 o'clock, the whistle goes, boom. And then rugby, I had this sort of alter ego on the rugby. I'm quite a laid back, gentle giant kind of guy. But then 3 o'clock, the whistle went, and the red mist descended, boom. I would just hit anything that moved. And that, it also gave me a routine, and it gave me discipline. It gave me a structure to my week, and that just all went out the window when after the injury. I didn't have anything to focus on. I didn't have any motivation. I didn't have any goals. My sort of drive had always been, in rugby terms, to be as fit and as big and strong as possible, to be the best rugby player that I could be, and I just nothing sort of seemed to be. It just didn't seem to be a point to anything anymore. No. So I went from, it was sort of all or nothing, and I went from all to nothing, and that's very much that's always how my mind works. Unfortunately, I need something to focus on and to motivate myself, a goal to work towards, in order to drive myself and go down the gym or go out for a run or whatever it is. And I just didn't. I just sort of lost the point of it all at that stage. So yeah.
When it happened as well, like you say, you charged in. Did you know instantly? I'm like, fuck, I've...
The body is a weird, very weird thing. I had a shooting pain at the time, or a stinger. We call this shooting pain down my arm, and it was actually as a result of slight nerve damage. I still have a slightly bizarre numb sensation in my right thumb. But anyway, so I felt this pain, and I thought, that I've had my fair share of bumps and bruises over the years. That's something not quite right there. But I sat up, and the physio came on and sort of wiggled me around and was sort of moving my head various different. This is with a broken neck. Remember? Yeah. Sort of, moving my head around and saying, "Does that hurt? Does that hurt?" I thought, "No, it's all right." So I came off, and I think we were trialing a rolling substitutes at the time. So after having an ice pack, after about 15 minutes, I was ready to come back on. I was like, "Oh no, I'm fine. I'll come back on." And I can remember we were winning at home against the league leaders, and so I was desperate to get back onto the pitch for the last 20 minutes or so to help out the boys. But the physio basically convinced me that this was not a good idea. We could sit out the rest of the 20 minutes. We were comfortable without me. Just chill out, James. And I mean, thank God. I'm standing there on the edge of a rugby pitch with a broken neck, desperate to get back on it. And it was 48 hours later that it hit me. The Saturday night, I went to this big charity do. The following day, I was I think I went for Sunday lunch. I can't remember. Anyway, on the Monday night, I was lying in bed. So actually, the Tuesday morning, I was lying in bed, and just I could sense that there was something wrong. I was just my body was obviously sort of starting to react. I don't know if the adrenaline had subsided, or maybe I'd sobered up from Saturday. I don't know but basically I was in agony from head to toe. And I got out of bed, and the girlfriend I was with at the time said, Jane, woke her up. She said, "What the hell are you doing? Come get back into bed." I said, no, I need to take myself to hospital. There's something seriously wrong. And so she's like, "What are you doing? This is ridiculous." Anyway, went to hospital, 2:00 on a Tuesday morning. There was, no one there. I'm the only one in A&E. They gave me a couple of I would sort of walk in and I say, "Oh, I've hurt I'm in a bit of pain." And they gave me a couple of paracetamol. I'm 17 stone, 6'5", broken neck. Here's a couple of paracetamol. I mean, they obviously didn't know, but I sat there for about 4 hours in agony, and eventually several X-rays and a CT scan later. A CT scan, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically a more in-depth X-ray. Showed this fracture of my C6 vertebra, which is the base of the neck. And I mean, I can only describe it as basically the hospital went into meltdown. That I had, again, the size of me, I had 6 nurses carrying me around on a stretcher. And I was sellotaped across my forehead, sellotaped to a bed for 5 days so that I couldn't move my head left and right.
My God.
And they started, obviously the morphine came in, they upgraded from the paracetamol, and they had to send these X-rays off or the CT scan off to some hospital in London for a consultant to decide whether or not I needed an operation, whether it was a stable or unstable fracture. Now, I'm no expert, but I've been walking around for 48 hours and my head hadn't fallen off. So eventually they decided it was stable, and I was sort of sent packing, but with a massive, great big bag full of basically painkillers. I was on so many drugs for various weeks afterwards that they had to give me a drug to stop the other drugs corroding my stomach. And quite how I'm not addicted to morphine, I have no idea. But and then actually, the way it really happened is that just the boredom set in. I was told, obviously I couldn't work. I was housebound for 3 months wearing this neck brace. And there's only so many episodes of Friends that you can watch on repeat before you go mad. And a few days in, I thought it was a sort of harmless, innocent thought about 3:00 in the afternoon. I thought, I'll treat myself to a beer, and I got a cold one out of the fridge. And a few days later, it was 2 or 3, and a few days after that, it was a 4-pack, and just over a 3-month period. I'd been a big drinker already. It spiraled, and I was putting away bottles of spirits a day by the end of it. And then I went back to work, and but sort of the problem it didn't go away. It just halted. The seed had been sown, as it were, and then over a 3-year period, I just got worse and worse. And I look back and I'm ashamed of some of the behavior, and sleeping rough and passing out in the street, and just doing all kinds of ridiculous, horrible, nonsensical things to look back at it. And it all came to there's that phrase, that rock bottom. I hit that rock bottom with a bottle of Jack Daniels in a seedy, grimy hotel room. And the next morning I sat there having this breakfast, and I had this moment, this sort of light bulb epiphany rose out of my body, kind of. I can't describe it apart from I sort of rose out of my own body and was just looking down at myself, thinking, I can't do this anymore. And that was the switch. And funnily enough, and we can talk about addiction and obsession, it then became a positive thing, because I poured myself into recovery. I poured myself into AA meetings, seminars, hypnotherapy, counselling, you name it, read everything there is to read. And that was over 5 years ago. So I've been sober for 5 years now. And I was sat in an AA meeting one day, and I'd been looking. Oh no, so I've got the order of that wrong. A month or so after I gave up drinking, I was watching the London Marathon one Sunday morning, and one of the steps that they encourage in it's a 12-step recovery process in the AA, is that you have to, one of the early steps is you're encouraged to find what they call your higher power, and it can be God. You know, if you're religious, it can be God, or it can be devotion to your family, or it's basically something to focus your mind. And it hit me watching that London Marathon that's what I'd been missing for the previous 3 years, was an element of a goal, a routine, discipline, something to focus on, something to sort of push towards. And the next day I signed up for the London Marathon the following year, and it gave me that drive, that back in my life that I'd been missing. And I was then a few weeks later sat in an AA meeting, and I thought to myself, and don't get me wrong, the AA is a phenomenal program. It has helped millions of people. But I was sat there and I thought, this is an hour of my life that I could be out running, or
training.
And again, the addictive nature just keeps kicking in. Unfortunately, it's very. I use the word unfortunately, but it's very fortunate. I did the London Marathon and got over the finish line, and just this feeling of immense satisfaction and of achievement, more so than I'd ever had on a rugby field, because of the fact that I'd set myself this year-long goal, and because of also all the abuse that I'd put myself through over the previous 3 years. As I say, it's amazing how the body can, from one end of the spectrum, I suppose, is this 48-hour period where I sort of wandered around with a broken neck, through to the recovery that the body is able to go through in pushing itself after 3 years of just incessant alcohol abuse, pushing itself 26 and a bit miles in under 4 hours.
Oh, brilliant.
And I just had this incredible sense of, this amazing sense of achievement, and my mind started going off on this funny journey. Okay, well, if I can do 26 miles, I wonder if I can do a little bit further. And it's just gone from there, really.
When you finished it, so obviously that was the first marathon you did as well, is it?
Yeah.
Were you knackered, or do you think were you like, I couldn't do more than this?
Funnily enough, I was an and again, it's the body's ability to sort of get used to things. When you train, if you're training for your first marathon, you never actually run marathon distance. It's 26 miles, and the longest you run is about 20, because they say that the adrenaline and the crowds, obviously not crowds at the moment, but hopefully crowds in the near future, the crowds and the cheering and all this sort of the adrenaline of the day will get you through that final six miles, 10 kilometers or so. As long as you get used to that pace, you can get through that last bit without necessarily practicing it. But so I did, but I could barely walk for a week. I seized up so badly. Apparently you use more muscles going down a flight of stairs than you do going up a flight of stairs, and I could not walk downstairs for several days afterwards. Whereas now, I did. Again, talk about the sort of the longer runs, but I ran 100 miles a couple of weekends ago, and 3 days later I was in the gym.
Bloody hell.
No, so that's a lie. 4 days later, I went on a short run just to sort of ease the legs back into things. So, I could not have done that 5 years ago.
After the marathon, yeah. So after the marathon, was that when you did the Carlisle to Newcastle?
So yes, 2017 I did the London Marathon. Yeah. 2018 I did the Paris Marathon, actually. And then I was. This is a funny story. I've got a friend that I was at university with who lives up in Newcastle, And he we'd been chatting, and he said, "Oh, you're getting into these long distance things. There's an event up my way called the Wall, and it's a run along Hadrian's Wall from Carlisle to Newcastle, 69 miles. What do you reckon? Should we do it together?" And I said, "Alex, Alex, if you're listening to this, yeah, great. That sounds like an absolute, it was then sort of the next stage on my endurance journey, for want of a fluffy phrase." And I signed up for it. He didn't. So
You didn't do it.
we didn't do it. I ended up doing it on my own. But then the next day he was like, "All right, okay, you can come over for a barbecue." But so that was my first official ultra. So an ultra is anything longer than a marathon.
Yeah.
That was 69 miles, which took about 14 hours, I think it was. But again, just a phenomenal event. And you think that running is quite a sort of solitary thing to do, which it is to an extent. It's, when you have to sort of put in the practice miles, but it's like any other sport when it comes to the actual day, and that unless you're the absolute cream of the elite and you're trying for a podium, the rest of the pack are just there to enjoy themselves and to get over the finish line as a sort of, and it becomes a community, and you share, snack bars, and you swap blister plasters, and you do all these sorts of funny things, and you meet people along the way, and you chat, and you sort of get their life stories and experiences, and it's a wonderful thing to be involved with. And especially, the harder that these events become, the more people have invested in them, and the more people are sort of willing to be part of that community. And it's not about, unless you are, as I say, the absolute top of the ladder. It's not about being the fastest or being the best or with the it's just about the sense of achievement of getting over that finish line. So it's an interesting concept that a lot of people might not necessarily understand, but it's that sense of achievement is really quite incredible.
It's brilliant. Yeah. Do you obviously, when you're training, do you do it yourself, or you're in like a running club?
No, I do it all myself.
Yeah.
Very honest with you, and it comes back to that thing, that a bit that I mentioned about the AA earlier, and that it's actually, I sort of use it as my time. My fiance is a member of a triathlon club, and she goes running with a group, and she loves that group interaction, whereas I just like switching off. I like going, and just the brain goes, and I have a mantra, I suppose, in that if I have a problem that can't be solved on a run, then it can't be solved, and it gets put aside. So I've got half an hour, 45 minutes. If there's something that is not quite, I've been working on, or there's something that's not quite right, and if I can't think it through and come up with a solution on a run, then I put it to the side. So it's my sort of, mindfulness is a very wishy-washy word, which some people have an aversion to, but it's a sort of meditative state that I like to go. My brain just goes off on ridiculous tangents, and I sort of solve the world problems.
Yeah, it does clear your mind running. Like, I find with me as well, it'll just clear my mind if I'm feeling a bit, like you said, if it's stuff on my mind, I'll just go for a run, and then times you get back from there, you just feel just so much better. Do you know what I mean? You just feel like a new man, don't you?
Yeah, there's a common misconception that running tires you out. Now, obviously it does to an extent, but actually it energizes you, it recharges you, because it allows you to go through these processes of, and there's all sorts of biological elements to this as well. The stress, and there's the endorphins that are released. So it genuinely does, in more ways than just your basic physical health and getting your fitness levels up. It does improve your way of living. I always say that I don't run for my physical health. I run for my mental health. And that goes all the way back to 6 years ago, when I decided to give up drinking, and 5 years ago, when I decided to give up drinking, and got into running as my higher power. There's use of that phrase again. So
like what's his name as well, Tyson Fury, like with him, his story as well, like his training. Just I know it's not running, it's boxing, but
No, but same
the same
thing. It
thing,
can be
isn't it?
any sport, and anyone that says I hate exercise is doing the wrong exercise.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't. It's biologically impossible to hate exercise because of the benefits that it has to your body and mind. You're just not doing it the right
thing.
or
Yeah.
the right type, or you need to find something. And running is not for everyone. I fully get that, and I do appreciate that running a long way in a 24-hour period or even longer is a slightly ridiculous thing to do. But it doesn't have to be running, swimming, cycling, whatever it might
be. Even if it's going to the gym,
boxing, gym. I can't, I can't say great things about the benefits of it.
Like you said, the amount of times I've just been on the couch and I've got to go and train, and I'm like, I really cannot be bothered to go train. But then I go train, and then I'm like you said, I've got more energy after training.
What happens when you get back from the training? You feel incredible, don't you?
Incredible, yeah. But no, that's definitely. And another one I want to quickly talk about. You hike Snowdon with a 40 kilo.
Oh yes, so that's jumping forward a little bit, which that's absolutely fine. I then did SAS 2 days.
Right.
And, it was actually I did Snowdon with my oppo is the phrase, my sort of the guy I was paired up with, my buddy Rick, who I'm still very very close to, and he does some charity stuff every now and again for a children's charity. And he before COVID, we went through this funny sort of process of him phoning me up and saying, James, I've got an idea for a challenge, are you in? And before even knowing what the challenge would be, I'd say, well, yeah, of course. So we did this. He phoned me up and said, James, I've got an idea for a challenge. Yes, great. What is it? Well, I thought, we're going to carry 40 kilo barbells up Snowdon. Yeah, all right. So we did, and oh god, it was horrible. And again, with a bad neck, I had this weight on the. And I can remember sort of packing the bar with all these like towels to cushion it, and we had to stop every like 5 minutes just to put it down. And like, God, this is painful. Pick it up again. Off we go. It took us about 5 or 6 hours to get up.
That's all right.
And it was a beautiful day. And apart from the sort of the top, probably the top quarter was just in complete whiteout. So we had this beautiful, walk probably up to about 700 meters or something, 750 meters or something like that. And people were passing us and asking what the hell we were doing. And obviously we're chatting with people and got a few donations along the way. And then we just got into this could barely see, a meter in front of us. Got up to the top where the little marker is, had a quick photo, and they're like, right, let's get out of here. Man down. So we left the weights up at the top of the train track, so that some poor sod could take them down for us, and just walked down with the bars because Rick was going to auction off the bars. But this was. Rick lives in sort of Manchester area, so he didn't have too far to travel. I was in London at the time, so I'd left London at about 4 o'clock in the morning, got 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, got to Snowdon for sort of 8 or 9, hiked all the way up Snowdon with this bloody barbell. I had to drive all the way back to London. So it was it's all in the same day. So it was about a sort of 20-hour day, which included a climb up and down Snowdon carrying a 40-kilogram barbell. Yeah. So again, just slightly silly, but a fantastic experience.
Yeah, it's not. Have you done it without? Obviously, have you done it before, prior?
Yeah, I've done it a few times, and in fact, I've done it a few times. I've only ever once seen the view.
So
it's just one of those things. I'd done it. That was one of 3 times that I'd done, and with white out at the top, and the most recent time that I did it, again, it was just before lockdown. Actually, was I did manage to get the view from the top.
Lucky.
I was saying to the group when the most recent time I was saying to the group at the bottom, I've done this 3 times already. I want to see the view, and they're like, okay, you should be fine today. Nice clear day. I mean, we got to the top. Lovely photo opportunity. Really cool.
Brilliant. It's the mountain, like you said, the mountains where they're so different. I did it with my girlfriend like last year, and I think it was like 22 degrees, and it was a beautiful day. We got halfway up the mountain, like you said, the fog just dropped.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh my God, what's happening here?
Like that.
Like that, you know, unbelievable. And it was boiling down the bottom, but times we didn't have no view. She was gutted, she was. But I'll have to get back up there. But like I said, it's no easy feat. And with a 40-kilo bar on the back,
we just did the obviously we did the Landberris.
Landberris path,
easy route up that top. But I've done a few of them. I've done Crib Gok and the
Crib Cork.
Apologies for the appalling accent, but no, it's a wonderful part of the world. And now that lockdown is easing, I was in London. I'm now in the West Country in Bath. We hope to, my fiance and I hope to do the Brecon Beacons and Snowdonia a bit more regularly. It's
beautiful.
On our doorstep. Yeah.
Well, that's where I live. I'm like literally outside the Brecon Beacons.
Oh wow!
Like cool. I'm not far at all. Like Pen y Fan and stuff. You know Pen y Fan? That's
I don't know it specifically, but
that's the highest mountain in the Beacons.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, so a few.
Oh, sorry, sorry. Of course, no. I'm a Penny fan of where they do the special forces training.
Yeah, I'll say yeah. The fan dance they call it.
It's on the bucket list to try and do the 4 hour. Is it 30 kilos or 40 kilos? I think you have to lug up there in 4 hours. I think I'd like to give that a go.
Oh, really? I didn't know that challenge.
Well,
you get up it pretty quick.
I think that's the official sort of SAS Special Forces part of their training, the fan dance.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I think it's a 4 hour cutoff, and it's either 30 or 40 kilos in a berg. And as I say, I think it's 4 hours, but I might be. Yeah, I might be wrong. But yeah, I'd like to give that a go.
Talking of SAS, we'll talk a bit about that now. Obviously, how did that even come about? Like, how did you even get the opportunity to do it? That came
about on a complete, well, I might as well. I'd watched and loved the previous 3 seasons. And so I was on the fourth season. And every time, at the end of the show, there's if you want to be on the next one, send your email to apply at Channel 4. I can't remember what it was. And every time I thought, I can't be bothered. And the third one, I watched the third one, which was the one in Morocco in the desert. And it was sort of during the time when I was beginning this journey of recovery and feeling all good about myself and getting back into the fitness. And I thought, well, why the hell not? So I sent off an email, thought nothing more of it. And several months later, I got an email in response out of the blue, inviting me to one of their recruitment days, which hundreds of people go to. And they just sort of slowly whittle you down. You have to do a fitness test, and if you basically quite a few people don't pass the fitness test. I had to do 50 press ups in 2 minutes, 50 sit ups in 2 minutes. I think I had to reach level 10 of the bleep test, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And then carry a few jerry cans filled with water in various distances and things like that. And then there was an interview, and I sort of did the whole, sob story of breaking my neck and that sort of stuff. And I think they were quite intrigued by my public school upbringing, let's put it that way. And then there was another interview, and then I had to do a psychological evaluation to make sure that I wasn't completely off the rails. And eventually, I think it was about 2 weeks before, it was sort of September 2018. They said, I got an email saying, right, you're in. Meet us at Heathrow in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, yeah.
And they sent us the boots to sort of wear in, and they sent us a compass and a map and navigational. We had to sort of learn how to map read, which I'd done a bit of Duke of Edinburgh as a kid, so I'd sort of done a bit of that. But it was very much a case of, right, no notice, which is all presumably part of the process of giving you the, what's the phrase, the heebie-jeebies, I suppose. so we met at Heathrow, didn't know where I was going to, and one of the production staff was there and said, right, okay, we're off to Chile.
So you didn't
Right.
know you were going prior, no?
No idea.
Oh, right.
No idea. We'd been told that it would be based on the sort of Arctic warfare, that kind of, that was the theme. So we were told to expect it to be cold. And I was thinking, was it going to be like Alaska or Canada or Norway or somewhere like that? No, we ended up 3,000 meters up the Andes in Chile, which was, I mean, people ask me, was it awful? And my response is, well, yes, but that is not the overriding memory I have of it. The memory I have of it is that it was the most brilliant 2 weeks of my life. It was, apart from the stress positions during the interrogation, which are just hideous. And again, having a bad neck, I did not enjoy that. I wouldn't wish them on my worst enemy. The rest of the time, it was absolutely brutal. And I didn't sleep for 2 weeks and didn't eat and lost 6 kilos and the rest of it. But I was flying around the Andes in a helicopter and jumping off bridges and doing all sorts of sort of money can't buy experience type stuff. And it's just a matter of perception. It's how you look at these things. And it's very much a case of you go through a horrible experience. And it's the same with sort of ultra marathon running or anything in life. Women going through pregnancy is a similar experience. It's absolutely horrible at the time, but then a few days later, you're like, well, that was great. I'd love to do it again.
Do it again, yeah.
So it's funny how you look at these things. And as I say, I don't have this memory of it being absolutely awful for a couple of weeks. I have very, very fond memories and took a lot from the experience. So it was great, really great.
And you got on with everyone in the team as well?
Yeah, it's funny because we're all from such different walks of life. But you're thrust into this situation where basically you have to get on. Although you're sort of competing with everyone else on some level, you're also dependent on everyone else. Especially when you have to sort of operate as part of a team. You can't. Some did, but we won't go into that. But you can't let other people down. You've got to pull your weight. Otherwise, your armband gets ripped off, and you're done. I mean, fortunately, I'm 6'5" rugby player, and the rest of it fairly resilient type of guy. I was able to get my head down and sort of do the physical side of things. I think myself, Rick, Milo and Mark were the other two lads that got through to the 8 of us that got through to the final couple of days. I'd say myself, Rick, Milo and Mark were the 4 lads who did so. We were reasonably competent on the physical stuff. Again, it was just a case of one foot in front of the other, just keep going forward. And we'll come on to that with the long distance running. But the mind, the mental stresses were interesting because for 12 days I was on edge. You just never knew what was coming next. And they'd give you the opportunity to sort of go back to the bunk room, and you didn't know if they were going to burst at Middleton, or the rest of them we're going to burst in through the door 5 minutes later or 2 hours later. Your mind's just constantly thinking, right, what next, and you're just trying to sort of guess. Well, I reckon we're going to be captured tonight, and then it wouldn't happen, and then you'd be on edge the entire of the rest of the next day. Like, we must be captured tonight, and then you wouldn't be. It'd be the next day, and just it's funny how the mind sort of plays tricks on you. I was a shell of a man by the time I got back, just because I had not slept for 2 weeks. I think I got about 2 or 3 hours a night. But again, incredible how the body is able to just keep going when it's told to do so. And it's come that the sort of mental element of all of this stuff is fascinating, because it's something that Billy and Middleton and the special forces promote. It's quite. I think it's I don't know if you've come across Dave Goggins, the former American Marine. It's something that he's big on. Is this sort of the mind gives out before the body. You get to a point where you think you're exhausted. But and I think in the military, that sort of, you know, special force, I think it's a 60-40 rule is what they use. You get to a point where you think you're exhausted, you've actually got 60% left in the tank.
Yeah.
Just your mind going, I'm done. And it's because of something called the central governor theory. There's a biology lesson for you. Your body goes into this protective state where your mind goes into this protective state of the body, where it thinks that it's overexerting itself, and the mind thinks that the body is overexerting itself, and it therefore just shuts you down. And the mind comes up with this concept of fatigue.
Yeah.
But scientifically, no one really knows what fatigue is.
No.
And it's like any muscle in the body. You can train it, you can improve it, you can improve its performance by practicing. And this is what I call mental fitness, and it's what comes into play when you're running 100 miles in a go. When your mind says stop, if you can say no, hang on a minute, I can just take one more step, and then the mind goes no, stop, and you go no, I'm going to take one more, and you just keep on taking one more step, you can go for as long as you want.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable. The human body is a remarkable piece of machinery. It really is. Capable of achieving these, you know, whether it's climbing Everest or swimming around. There's a guy called Ross Edgley swam the entire.
That's insane.
You know, just the ability to get back in the water on every day and just swim or run ridiculous distances. But it's not just endurance. It's not just endurance sports. This is what I like to preach. Is not possibly not the right word, but this isn't just ultra marathon running. This is life. You know, and if you come up against a setback or a hurdle, or you're struggling to get a job promotion, or hitting a deadline, or you're trying to save money to buy a car, whatever it might be, if you can just keep putting one foot in front of the other, metaphorically speaking, having the understanding that you're moving towards that target, you know, there's nothing that can that can stop you if you understand that, and you can reinforce that as a way of thinking.
I 100% agree. And like you said, even in life, I'm one, for example, I get overwhelmed with, if I got a lot on, I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this, that, the other. But like you said, if you write what I do, I write everything down.
Yep.
And then as I go, right, I've done this, cross it off, done this, cross it off, type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And targets, goals. I'm big on goal setting.
Yeah.
And I love that. Just little things. And you take the little wins. Celebrate the little wins. And goal setting is hugely important. As I say, when I did my first marathon, I went from being a very unhealthy, basically an alcoholic, but I gave myself a whole year to train for this, what at the time was this impossible. And I love this word. This is a fascinating word. This impossible feat. You've got a year to get over this 26.2 mile milestone, right? But if you break that down, in the first week I probably walked, I can't remember, but I probably walked a kilometre as my first piece of exercise was just getting out the door. And that was a win. I celebrated that win. First thing was putting down the bottle. But if you then build it up and you get further and further and further, and again, you're just the way that reinforces the more you do, the more your mind understands what it's capable of doing, and the more you get closer towards that target. And I firmly believe that anyone can. Again, I use this example because it's what I now do. But running a marathon, anyone can run a marathon, and I genuinely mean that. It's not about being Eliud Kipchoge, who, if you haven't heard of him, is the first man to run one in under 2 hours. That's phenomenal achievement. Yeah. It's not about that. It's about doing it, being the best version of yourself and getting over that finish line and that what that represents. And it could be 2 hours, 4 hours, 8. It doesn't matter how long it takes. If you get over that finish line, you've and it's the same in every sort of walk of life.
Like they're all saying, the only person you should be in a competition is yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Unless you are Eliud Kipchoge, who can, is the only man in 7 billion people on the planet who can run a marathon in under 2 hours. It doesn't matter how quickly you do it.
No, that's fucking insane. In my prime, I was running pretty hard. I did half a marathon in 1:42. That's
Good.
half a marathon.
Yeah, that's decent.
But yeah, fucking hell, under 2 hours for a full marathon. I don't think even if I could sprint that fast for a marathon, I could not do that time, That's
just, it's a mind-blowing achievement. And it's this, comes back to this idea of impossible. And I think this is fascinating. It compares to 60 years ago. Roger Bannister did the first 4-minute mile. And for about 80 years before that, people had been trying to do so. It had become this sacred time. It must be done. Someone must break this record of running a mile in under 4 minutes. But over like an 80-year period, I think it was, from the late 1800s, people were trying to do it, and it got to the point where I think in the 1940s, a couple of Swedish guys did it, and they set the record at 4 minutes and 1 second, right? And that stood for 10 years. And it got to the point in the 50s where people were starting to believe that it was biologically impossible to do it. Until Roger Bannister, an uncoached student on a wet track wearing like these hard-ass leather shoes, blitzed it, right? 3 minutes, 59 seconds, 1954, I think it was. And suddenly the world went, oh my God, it's possible. Yeah. And within 2 weeks, someone had done it. Someone had run it even faster.
2 weeks later?
2 weeks later, someone did it even quicker because everyone suddenly started thinking, oh wait, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Right? And then fast forward 60 years, I think it was 2018. It's the same year as Edgley went round Britain. Nike actually did it as a publicity stunt, and he came up 26 seconds over. If he'd have run each mile a second quicker, he would have done it. And then he tried again and achieved it. 1 hour 59 or something. 1 hour 59 and 40 seconds or something like that. And the first thing that he said, this is a Kenyan guy. First thing he said was when he crossed the finish line was, "Well, I've done it. I'm sure others will. I'm sure others will now as well."
Yeah.
That I thought was incredible. And then it's the same thing with. I love these stories of Edmund Hillary's another one. It was impossible to climb Everest.
Yeah.
Well, I went and bloody did it anyway, didn't I?
Yeah.
And Ross Edgley's another one because everyone said, "No, you can't swim around Britain. That's impossible."
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No.
So I just love these stories, and I was very much of the mentality that 5 years ago, oh no, I can't run a marathon. I'm 6'5", I weigh 100 kilos. I'm drinking too much, but it's about reframing what you perceive as being possible and not limiting yourself.
Yeah.
When I talk about my my long distance running, I don't know why we do this as a sort of human race. The innate, immediate, often frequent response that I get is, "Oh, I could never do that." Well, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
And it's just people say this as it's like their answering phone machine, their voicemail. "Oh, I can never do that." It's just sort of comes out, and I don't know, they perhaps don't sort of necessarily think it through, or again, it's this sort of automated response. But if you wind it back, and I say 8 years ago I broke my neck, 5 years ago I was an alcoholic, and now I'm running 100 miles for fun.
Yeah,
fun. It's all relative, but it's about again that concept of impossible versus possible, and concept of limitations, and I find it very interesting that how we as humans limit ourselves.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And we've all said it, you know. I bet you said, I said it. I can't do that. I can't do that. But you can do it. We're all human, aren't we? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And again, it's the human body is an incredible thing. I've now gone on to running over 100 miles in one go a couple of times now. And sorry, go.
No, you've done it a few times, have you?
Yeah, I've done it. I've done 100 miles twice.
Awesome. Yeah.
I did in September last year. I did an event called the Thames Path 100, which was from London to Oxford along the Thames, 100 miles. And then in I don't know when this is going out. You know, if it's a couple of weeks time, it'll be a few weeks back. The first May bank holiday just gone. I did the Cotswolds Way, which is 102 miles. But whereas the Thames is flat, the Cotswolds Way is not. It involved climbing and descending half the height of Everest over a 102-mile route, which I did in 25 hours. So it was a long old stint, but there's I mean, I'm raising money for, you know, I can share obviously the website charity details, raising money for Children with Cancer UK. That's why I'm doing all of this stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah.
But I've just had this, part of the reason that I picked the Cotswolds Way was that I moved to Bath, and Bath is right at the one end of it.
Yeah.
My long-suffering fiance, bless her, dropped me at the other end a few weekends ago and said, right, run home. So off I went. But I'd done a bit of research, and I did it carrying all of my calories, and the only thing that I bought along the route was liquids. So, and it's the first solo and self-supported run of the Cotswolds Way.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's a nice little record to have. It's known as an FKT in the running community, a fastest known time, which is, yeah, it's just a nice thing to have. And again, I'm not a fast runner. I'm not fast. But it's possible for anyone, if you do a little bit of research and a little bit of work, anyone to do something like that, get an FKT, a record. And it's interesting how endurance running is actually not about being physically fit. I need to perhaps coin this or trademark it. I call it the CAMP philosophy, CAMP with a double P. Which stands for calories, admin, mental, physical, and pacing. Right, and I like to think of it as like a sort of pie chart. You know, those 5 different things have different segments, and the sort of admin bit is a small segment. I don't know, call it 5%. You've got to look after yourself. You've got to make sure that you've got your blister plasters packed, and that I rub coconut oil everywhere so that I don't chafe, and all this, right, wearing the right kit, that sort of stuff. The pacing is hugely important. You obviously can't, well, I say hugely, it's slightly more important. You obviously can't run 100 miles the same speed that you run 100 meters or a marathon even. So if you're running 4-hour marathons, you end up running 6-hour marathons over, if you're doing 4 back to back. So pacing is, and it makes sure you don't get your heart rate too high, because that then tires you out. The other P is the physical fitness. And, we're not up towards the important end of this spectrum yet. You have to be physically fit to an extent, but you don't have to be Elliot Kipchoge, right? Then the C is calories. This is the second most important thing. I can't remember who it was, but it was a famous long distance runner who once said that an ultra marathon is an eating and drinking race with a bit of scenery thrown in. So you have to eat, you basically have to keep the calories coming, because you're burning so many calories, you know, over a 24-hour, you're moving non-stop over a 24-hour period. You just have to you have to learn to sort of eat on the move, and you have to learn what works for your body. You can't just, you know, drink Coca-Cola and eat jelly babies all day. You get sick on the sugar. So you have to eat, and you need salts to make sure that you don't, overhydrate, electrolytes, things like that. But then the final piece of this puzzle is, and it's probably half of the whole equation, is the mental side of it. You imagine that sort of half of that pie chart, 50%, probably more, is the mental. And it's just that. And again, it comes back to this sort of life analogy. If you can get into that mindset where you are just putting one foot in front of the other and always moving forward, you are making progress, and you will eventually get to that finish line. You can't get to the finish line if you're stagnant. And we as human beings, we like to think that we want comfort and to be restful, but actually we get sort of mental health problems come as a result of stagnation and not moving forward. It's like riding a bike; you have to move forward. So it's very interesting, and I don't want everyone listening to this to think that they have to go off and run an ultramarathon. I don't want them to think that at all. I want them to think that whatever they want to achieve is capable if they get into the mindset of making progress and sort of putting a goal down and like you say, crossing things off on the list towards it.
Couldn't agree more, James. It's bang on what you're saying, and like you said, it's all about just going one step forward all the time, and it just keep moving. And you're on the right track. And how much calories did you burn about the Curio with the?
My watch. I've got a one of these fitness tracker things.
And
it slightly over exaggerates my heart rate.
Right.
So it's constantly telling me that my heart rate's at about 220 beats a minute, which is biologically impossible. In fact, the way that you're supposed to calculate your maximum heart rate, I think, is by taking the number 220 and then subtracting your age.
That's it, yeah.
So it's constantly telling me that heart rate's over 200. So it over exaggerates the calories, but it said it was something like in the region of about 30,000 calories, something like that.
Fucking hell.
I mean, even if it's half that, I was sort of treating myself to a KFC afterwards. Or I'm big on my pizza. Love a pizza. That's my treat. I mean, that's one of the most enjoyable parts of the experience is the carb loading the 2 days beforehand and the treat meals afterwards. Actually, so I finished on the Sunday morning, and I didn't have a pizza. Actually, my fiance and I went out for a Sunday lunch later that day, which was really nice. Had a burger.
Yeah, just as good.
Burger was a treat. Yeah, that was good.
Oh, that's brilliant, James. What you were saying in July, you've got something lined up as well?
Yeah. So again, for the cancer, children with cancer charity, raising money for them. So people, it's the Just Giving page. It's justgiving.com/ and it's Gwinnett. It's a combination of my surname and my fiance's surname, because we're doing another challenge together later in the year. So it's GWINNECKY, or I'm on James Gwinnett at social media. People can find me there, and the link's on there. End of July, I am doing an event called the Kennet and Avon Canal Race, which starts in London and finishes in Bristol, which is 145 miles in one go. So it will be flat again. I'm back to the flat, which is nice. But I mean, we're talking 30 plus hours for that, and I'm slightly dreading that one. But again, it's just a case of one foot in front of the other. Keep putting one foot down, and I'll get there. So that'll be by far that's almost 6 marathons back to back. And then I say my long suffering fiance, she will be my wife at that stage. We're getting married in a week before that. So bless her, we're taking a very short honeymoon. And then the Friday, we're getting married on the Saturday. On the Friday, 6 days later, I'm doing this mad event. But we are then, that's a mini moon because of COVID, obviously. But we're going down to Cornwall. But then our proper honeymoon is taking place in December. And we're not going and sitting on a beach in Mauritius and drinking cocktails. Obviously, I wouldn't be drinking cocktails, but she's sort of slightly into this mad stuff as well. She's cycled 500 kilometers across Italy in 4 days once, and so she loves this sort of stuff as well. So for our honeymoon, we are running, cycling, and kayaking 350 kilometers across Patagonia.
Are you?
Yes. So but it's all for charity.
Yeah,
so
brilliant. Yeah.
Visit the website. But yeah, I mean, it won't be awful. You know, Patagonia is one of the most. It's on both on our destination bucket list. It's stunning. So we'll be taking the scenery, and we then, once we've done this sort of 6-day expedition, we will treat ourselves to a couple of days in a nice hotel. But it's sort of always been on our radar in terms of, as I say, destination, and another good life experience before we settle down and try and do some sort of more sensible things.
No, you never grow out of it, I don't think, James. They speak Welsh in Patagonia, I'm pretty sure. All right.
I've heard that. Yes, there is some kind of sort of expat community. Is that right? Yeah.
As what I've heard, like, you know, just people say, oh, they speak Welsh in South America. I'm like, where? And it's like Patagonia. I used to say that in school when I was in school, but I don't know how. You know, I'm guessing it's mainly Spanish down there, isn't it?
Yes, I believe it is. Yes,
but I think there may be like communities or villages. Well,
that's not the first time I've heard that. So I mean, I don't know if we'll come across it, but that would be funny.
I'm a joking Welshman. I don't speak Welsh. I know words. So even if I went there, I'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. That's awesome. Well, like I said, December, you should be all right to go out there, wouldn't you?
By December, we hope so. We're monitoring things. Things aren't quite as advanced in Argentina as they are here.
Yeah,
unfortunately, but we're hoping that in 6 months' time we should be okay.
Yeah. How do you plan a route like that then? You just
that's a specially organised event.
Oh,
so
right. Okay.
It's all being done for us. Yeah, it's a company. It's actually the same company that organises the wall running.
Oh, right.
Running event. A company called Rat Race.
What's it called? The race you're doing?
It's called Glacier to Glacier.
I'm gonna Google that after I get off the phone. Now I'll have a look at it.
It's between two of the world's most spectacular glaciers in the Glacier National Park in Argentina, and it's they organise the route on the 6 days, 2 days of running, cycling, kayaking, and they map it all out for us. So the sort of logistics are done for us. I have to be honest. It's just a case of we turn up and off we go.
Yeah.
But yeah. So not your average honeymoon anyway.
Any shaping you on the have you done much kayaking or not really?
Bits and bobs over the years. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a strength of mine, but we've looked into the local. There's a Bath kayaking club. Once I've got these silly running things out of the way, we'll try and do a couple of sessions or so before we head out there. Yeah.
Brilliant, James. That's awesome, mate. Looking forward to it. And maybe next year you can come back on and you can tell us about that.
I'm happy to talk about it. Yeah, I have promised Krista, her name is. I've promised Krista that I'll retire in inverted commas from all this stuff, and we'll think about starting a family and all that sort of stuff next year, which will be the next great adventure, of course. So
of course it is. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Life is one big adventure, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah.
Awesome, James. Obviously, before you let you go, anything else you'd like to say? Obviously, your Instagram is at James Gwinnett. Just that, is it?
At James Gwinnett. Yeah. It's GWINNETT. Just James Gwinnett, one word. Instagram and Twitter. And again, the Just Giving is justgiving.com/Gwinnett.
Yeah.
Gwinnetti. GWINNECKY.
Yeah.
We're up to just over £6,000 at the moment. I'm recording this now, and target is 10,000.
Yeah.
So any donations hugely appreciated. Follow me. See, I'll be posting about the Kennet and Avon race in the end of July. So any support would be incredible, and just don't limit yourself. Life is there for the taking, and we're very quick to say, as we've discussed, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
When actually, if you just take a step back and break it down and think, rather than thinking I can't do that, think, how could I do that?
Yeah.
And don't everyone go out and think that they have to go and run an ultra marathon. Just think about how it sort of relates in terms of wider life. What are your goals? And there's no reason you can't go out and achieve them with the right mindset.
Definitely. I think a lot of people will take inspiration off this, because like obviously the podcasts I've done in the past, I've had people who do Ironman and people who've done Marathon des Sables.
Yeah,
The Marathon des Sables. And I've had people message me on Instagram saying, listen to this podcast and it's inspired me to do this and that, the other. So I think this one's definitely going to inspire people,
Listen, if one person thinks that they're going to go out and do something, it's worth it. So I'm all for it.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
No worries at all.
James Gwinnett, everybody. Yo.